All right. Well, I want to thank you for joining us. This is the Alumni Panel. We've got an incredible lineup here. There are two Aarons, by the way. There's the Professor Aaron, and then there's also Aaron, the graduate here from Coastline. All of these students have attended Coastline in one form or another. A couple of them I know personally, and we've tried to get a good mix. And so what I'm going to do is I'm first going to ask, I'm going to go in order. Please limit your time to 60 seconds. Jesse, in 60 seconds or less, tell us your story.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. Well, 60 seconds. So I was originally in the military. I joined in 2009 and completed my service in 2014. And then I'm originally from Rhode Island. So after my service time, I just moved to California, and the first place I landed was Coastline Community College, and I was actually really impressed at all the resources. I was looking at a community college at the time just because I wasn't really sure what I was going to study yet, and I needed to have some flexibility and be able to choose my path from there, and luckily Coastline offered me that. So in Coastline, I did student government and then the Veterans Club. Transferred from Cal State Long Beach to, from Coastline to Cal State Long Beach. Graduated this December, and currently I'm working as an auditor for an accounting firm here in Long Beach and Orange County.
Thank you, Jesse. I really appreciate that. In 60 seconds or less, please tell us your story.
Well, I'm originally a native of Compton, California. I graduated from high school when I was 14. From that point, my plans were to go to college, but at that age, I was not ready. I was just living life. So I ended up just working from there. Decided to go back to school 12 years later. And at that point, I still honestly didn't know what I wanted to do. I was a business operations manager for a charter school, and I had served in several accounting positions prior to going back to school, but I knew that wasn't the field that I really wanted to be in. Upon entering Coastline, Professor Thomas actually kind of shifted me more towards the procurement and more so towards the supply chain management field. And I kind of just took an interest in that and ran with that. I just recently finished my bachelor's in business administration with an emphasis in management information technology. And now I'm kind of geared towards running my own business.
Awesome, Ron. Thank you. Joe, I know you're here. I saw you. If you could please go.
Hi. I'm grateful to be here. I'm also another Professor Thomas success story, if you will. She's really changed my life. I am a older student, and that has its own complications. And as a kid, I was homeless in foster care, became a teen parent, then military wife. I've been dealing the last 4 years with some major cancer issues. And, I've had a million reasons to quit school, and I haven't. And the more I do school, the more that I learn about myself. I was trying to do school to get a better job, and I ended up learning so much about myself that I'm so grateful to be in these classes. Last year, I was in one of Professor Thomas's classes, and we were all talking about what we wanted to do. And we hadn't even noticed, myself and some of the other students, how low we were shooting on our goals. And she stepped in somewhere in our discussion and she said, "Why are you guys aiming so low?" And I realized that it's because, well, for myself, I didn't have any self-confidence to go above that. I didn't feel like I was good enough to go above that. And it really kind of changed my mindset. And this is what these college classes have done for me, that they're changing who I am and my thinking and of my respect for myself and my realizing my worth. And so during this COVID experience, I actually got offered an amazing job, and I turned it down at first. And then I heard her voice in my head. I was making so many excuses because I just kept telling myself that I wasn't ready. I'm like a lot of parents that have circled around their kids for so long and their spouse that I didn't think that I could do anything outside of what I've been doing, which is working with special education students and teaching preschool. And the job I got offered was full of electronics, technology, and like I was hearing earlier, that's today's new world. But for a lot of us that are older or just haven't had the experience with it, well, you throw us into a room with all these gadgets and we're overwhelmed and we can't do it and we want to run out the door. And then I got offered it again. I actually turned it down twice. And then the third time I said, you know what? I'm going to take it. And if I can't do it, I'll get fired. But I at least tried. I at least didn't let myself down before I gave myself the opportunity. And I came in here and I got to tell you, I'm killing it. I have 3 computer monitors on my computer, and I thought, who needs that? And I'm using them, and I know what to do with them, and I'm helping students from a whole different aspect. And I'm still furthering my education so I can do more with myself and learn more about myself and how I can give to my community and myself. But I feel like too many of us sell ourselves short on what we can do and our capabilities. And thank goodness to the companies too that are willing to put their arms out and say, yeah, I know you don't quite know this, but I bet you I can teach you, and I bet you're going to be a great employee if I do. So I'm grateful for that too. But Coastline has really changed my life. So thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Enrique, it's been a while since we've talked. I hope you're doing well. In 60 seconds, can you please tell us your life story? I know that.
Yeah, I hope you're doing well as well, Mr. Kevin, Professor Erdkamp. I always used to call you Professor. I'm doing pretty good. So my life story is I grew up in SoCal, Orange County. I graduated high school, and after high school, I actually wasn't too sure what I wanted to do. I was always kind of pressured by my counselor and parents just to go to 4-year right after college. So I always had that pressure on me, and I kind of, decided to not go about it the conventional way and decided to go to Coastline Community College, where I actually found a lot of support, like Professor Erdkamp and Paolo at the Career Center. And it was actually a very great opportunity for me to grow and learn more about myself. And then after I was done there, I transferred to UC Berkeley. And then from UC Berkeley, I studied economics. And then after studying economics for 2 years at UC Berkeley, I got an offer at AIG. So I'm an underwriting analyst at AIG right now, currently.
Nice. Thanks. And last, Aaron, thank you for joining us. Aaron Thomas, in 60 seconds, please tell us your life story.
So I finished high school in Redondo Beach, California. I started with cosmetology school, and I went on to get my cosmetologist license in 3 different states. And then I decided that I wanted to really grow my business, and I started school with Coastline to get my associates in 2018 at the age of 30, I believe. So I'm just now getting to college and getting a lot of benefit from it.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you for joining us. So in the interest of time, we only have 30 minutes for this total session. We're trying to keep it short, but I really appreciate those answers. And the next one is, and I'll start off with Ron. What is the most valuable skill you learned in college, and then why?
I would say the most valuable skill that I've learned is just the importance of diversity and being able to work with different people and accept the ideas of different people. Many times we think we know it all. We think our way is the best way or what our parents taught us. And what I've learned is most times that usually isn't the best way, and it's usually not even the right way. So just being around so many different people, just whether it's age, race, sexuality, gender, just many demographics, it's just important to understand that the world is flattening, and as it flattens, we have to be able to basically just kind of assimilate to one world instead of our upbringing.
Jesse, the same question. What is the most valuable skill you learned in college, and why?
I would say that in college, I definitely learned I guess, a little bit of discipline, but also a lot more of camaraderie, because being in classrooms, working in group projects, and also working in student government, you work with a lot of different people. And so you end up being able to work together to come to a common conclusion or a solution or whatever your project may be. And a lot of times those people end up becoming good friends of yours. And in fact, I'm meeting some student government friends that I haven't seen in a couple of months. Tomorrow, we're doing a Friendsgiving. So a lot of those relationships that you build in high school and in college and, wherever else ends up taking you in the future. And, you make those friends. And I think that the sense of being able to get along, even if you do have differences with some of them, some other people, it's a valuable skill, no matter where.
Thank you, Jesse. And Joe, I'll ask you the same question. What is the most valuable skill you learned or are learning, since it sounds like you're still in college, and why do you think that's so valuable?
Mine would probably be perseverance, because I've wanted to quit a couple times when I don't feel good or things get hard. And I've never regretted continuing on. And I think that's my hardest thing, is just staying in the game, because when I keep going, the next week I'll learn something so phenomenal that I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I'm still here. I would have missed out on this moment. So that would be my biggest thing.
I'm going to move on to the next question here. This one's for Enrique. How has your work or educational life changed?
Yeah, so for me, it actually has, for the most part, kind of remained business as usual, apart from not going into the office. So before the pandemic, I would go to the office every single day, and I would also interact with brokers, face to face. But now everything's virtual, so I guess you can kind of say it's kind of how school has been affected, in the sense that it's all online.
And Aaron, how about the same question for you? How has your work life changed, or education life changed during this pandemic?
Okay, well, of course, working in the salon, that's totally shut down during the pandemic. So I was very fortunate to have my business, and it's kind of grown over the pandemic, ironically. So that has actually been cool. But my classes were already online too, so I was kind of used to that.
Professor Kevin?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I actually just wanted to mention as well, I probably don't suspect that. I suspect that a lot of people on this call don't know who AIG is, because I didn't know who they were before I got hired. But we're kind of like to explain who they are and what we do.
Sure.
So AIG is an insurance company. We underwrite insurance and all different kinds of departments, fields, industries. So I work in the healthcare industry. So the way the work that I do is, brokers send in requests for insurance. So if you're a hospital, you need insurance in certain states and certain limits. So you have an application that we have. You submit it to us. I would go through the application, see all the different data points that we need. How many beds they have, how many losses have they had, how many visits do they have per year, and then ultimately try to come up with the price, and then try to sell that insurance to the broker and to the client. So that's what I do. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Enrique. And Joe, your educational or work experience, how has that been modified during these times?
Well, I actually 4 months ago. And so when this quarantine first hit, I actually was temporarily put out of work and took 3 jobs. I was doing 3 jobs at first. And then I got offered this job. So now I'm working as a filing clerk for 6 different schools. And I've really upped clerical skills. I didn't actually have any before. So I'm learning, all these different skills of different ways to help students. And I think it's settled adage that it's not the strongest of the species that survive, but the ones that learn adaptability. And during these times, I think we've learned our survival skills of, especially in the work field, of you figure out how the changes are happening and you change with them. And I've changed with it to online education, a job, and this has been good time.
Awesome. Thank you. So last question, we do want to save a little bit of time here for some questions. I know that if you have a question, please type it in the chat and we'll get to it towards the end. We are going to reserve some time for that. So I'm going to start at the end here and I'm going to work my way backwards. Enrique, what would be some advice for someone who is seeking an internship, job, etc., during these times where you can't go face to face?
So I think honestly it would probably be best to go via LinkedIn and try to expand your connections there. Yeah, and just reaching out to people, honestly, just trying to see who you know, and if you don't know anybody, well, now you know me. And just honestly, I think the really big thing that you need to do is just work on your resume, which Paolo can really help a lot. I'm gonna give it all to Paolo. He really helped a lot. Like he really helped me a lot throughout this process when I was applying for work and applying to college even. So Paolo's a really great resource. So I would give shout out to Paolo.
Thank you, Enrique. And next one, Joe, what advice would you offer someone who is seeking an internship partnership during these times?
Be kindly persistent. I do agree with contacting the employers that you're trying to get a job with. Don't be afraid to be a little bit in their face and make sure that they know that you want that job.
Awesome. Thank you.
Kevin, we had a really good question in the chat. Christopher asked if, and I don't know who wants to answer this, but if there's one thing you could do differently in college or do over again, what would it be? What would you improve?
For me, I would say make sure you're going for what you want and not your parents or what people think you should be going for. Do what makes you happy and what matters to you.
Well, I guess my biggest thing is definitely explore what your options are, because I heard from a lot of people here today that, and perhaps you guys are going through the same as in high school students. You may not know what you want to study, right? Like you think you have ideas and maybe you do, maybe you don't. And even after the Navy, I thought I wanted to study computer science. And then I took Erdkamp's class because I was curious about accounting and I fell in love with it. So the best time to make a decision is now that you're young and that perhaps you haven't decided as of yet. So explore your options, do your research on what types of jobs there are out there, and then speak to your instructors. Always speak to your instructors, get some insight from them, and make your decision from that.
One thing I would say is that maybe like throughout college, I wasn't as confident as I should have been, and I didn't ask as many questions, like as many questions as I had. So the biggest thing that I would say is ask questions. If you have a question in your mind, just ask it because somebody knows the answer and you're not alone. Like you just know that you're not alone, and you know you always have people that you can ask questions to.
Aaron Thomas, what advice would you offer someone who is seeking an internship during these times?
I don't know. I'm just kind of really practical. So I actually got a really cool internship for a celebrity fashion stylist the end of last year, and I was just apply for everything that looked interesting to me. Is just be persistent is what I would say.
Awesome. And last, Jesse, what would you recommend?
I would highly recommend getting involved in student organizations, especially Coastline and especially in four-year universities, because every degree that you decide to go to in business, at least, there's some sort of organization. Like I went in accounting society and Beta Alpha Psi, and a lot of the networking are basically with professionals that are alumni of the school. So they go back to the school, you speak to them and you get to know them, ask them a lot of good questions. And then from there, that gives you your first connection into the internship opportunity. So always highly recommend get involved into some sort of club or organization.
And if I could, I'll add on to that. I just gave a link earlier this semester and some of my students attended it. It was a virtual Meet the Firms, and Meet the Firms is kind of exclusive to accounting, and we've done a couple here that have been very successful. We also did one that failed, and I'll be the first to admit that failed, and that was a big part on me. And don't be afraid to fail. But I appreciate that. So, Stacy, I think there were some other great questions in the comments there.
There were. Ron already addressed one of them from Nicholas. How many times did you change majors, and then what was the progression of those changes? Ron said he changed majors 5 times. Let's see, marine bio, biomedical engineering, geography, business, and then computer science. So thanks for sharing that, Ron. Did you want to add anything about maybe
Into that,
why you decided to change majors each of those times?
I wanted to tell people, because I changed majors before, and that's a really good question. But I want to tell people it doesn't matter how old you get or how long you've been in school. Please don't be afraid to change majors and try new things. I mean, I'm one of the few teachers at the school that got to take a Common Core math class. If I hadn't been doing schooling at this later age in life, I wouldn't have got that. And a lot of them didn't even get to experience that class. So don't be afraid as you're aging to try different majors or to try different classes.
I think there's a lifelong learner versus a lifetime student, and I've said that in a lot of my classes. A lifetime student is someone who's afraid to get out there and work. I don't think you want to be a lifetime student, but you definitely want to be a lifelong learner. I went back in my mid-40s and took courses on how to teach online because I really wanted to get into teaching, and I came the public accounting route. I went into private industry, and so I agree with that. I was in community college taking classes on how to teach online. I didn't even know what online instruction was, about 8 years ago.
I was just going to add to Joe's statement is that I think the best time to change is in community college, because once you make a decision like that in a 4-year school, that decision can cost you a lot of money as well. So you have to be at least knowledgeable about how much it can, how your structure of your new degree is if you're going to make a decision like that. Well, in community college, it's like 46 a unit or something like that. 4-year college can be upwards to like $200 a unit. So that's my recommendation.
Real quick too, I just wanted to call on, I see Jewel here. I don't know if she's available. She spoke prior to the start of this meeting, and I just wanted to ask her if she could just talk for 1 minute or two on what she did. She was one of those students like yourself that already has a 4-year degree and that came back. Jewel, do you mind chatting with the students here just for a couple minutes?
So I graduated back in 2011 with a poli-sci and econ degree with the intention of going to law school, but I never did. I started working for a nonprofit organization and an import company. Never was interested in accounting till I got into my current job. And then I started doing my own research and connecting with people on LinkedIn, and also taking classes at Coastline College to dip my feet into the field to see what it's like, because I've never really taken accounting classes. And in a span of I think the past month and a half, I've been doing back-to-back interviews just by networking with people on LinkedIn, not asking for an interview, but just to know more about the field. But they were able to send my resume to the recruiters, and I've already gotten 3 offers out of the 5 interviews I did.
And if I could add, it's a national CPA firm, and that is just an astounding amount of time. That's so short to start from that. And so kudos to Jewel for really just working the system. So it kind of pulls together everything that all of these panelists have been saying. Use your LinkedIn, take advantage of your professors, knowledge and contacts and all of those different things. And really just college isn't just about showing up and taking an exam. It's much more than that. It's what you make of it. So
hey, Kevin, I've taken over for Stacy in the chat, and we had a really good question that possibly came from a high school student, which is, how do you recommend finding what it is that your interest is when you're in your community college years?
That's a great question. Anyone on the panelists want to start there?
For me, the same thing I was saying earlier, the best advice I can give for finding something that you might be interested in is just doing what you love to do, what makes you happy. Not what your family thinks, not what society tells you is the best or upcoming field. Do what makes you happy. Do something that you could actually do for free. Do something that you do in your spare time. something that you love looking into, something that you love researching. Do something that's for you, not for anyone else.
Awesome, Ron. Anyone else? Aaron, I see your hand raised.
Yeah, I've actually taken one of those like extensive quizzes that you can find, like with 150 questions, and it was kind of very helpful. And also with going back to school after so long, I like poured through all of the courses and programs and really saw what interests me and use the resources by talking to the different counselors and stuff to see what would be a good fit. And this is Serena. She wants to say hi, everybody.
Hi. Okay. Anyone else? So we got about a minute or two left.
Yeah. So I would say get in contact with like the, I guess, administration office. I don't know whether it be the I guess maybe your counselor. Start with your counselor because they know where all the resources are. So I went with my counselor, kind of just decided to craft my 2-year program from the start. So if you like start from sooner rather than later, I recommend doing that. So get involved with the staff. That's what really helped me out, because at the end of the day, the staff knows where all the opportunities are, so they're able to guide you in a better way, I say.
And I'll just put in a plug
And let
for
me
the
just
Career
add
Center.
one thing.
Sorry. Go ahead.
The Career Center is a great place to explore interests and skills sets. So it's not just a place to find a job, it's a place to consider different degree focuses.
He's the one that actually put this on. Paulo Diz and Jesse. We'll let you talk there. Thanks.
Oh, I was just going to say something quick. Ask a lot of questions when you network. I think the way you guys got into the Zoom was a web page, and each one of us has a LinkedIn in there. So feel free to reach out to every single one of us and ask us a lot of questions about what we do and how it is. You already met a couple of us, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions regarding auditing and public accounting and such.
And yes, we are going to have the networking session after this. If you have trouble navigating, you can just click leave the breakout room, go to the lobby, and you can be put into a separate breakout room with all of the there's going to be quite a few attendees. So the panelists from earlier sessions, plus I know a lot of these panelists have agreed to stay as well. I think it's just going to be a fantastic time. We did run over a little bit. I appreciate everyone's questions. And if you still have questions, let's talk about them in this next networking session, which starts in 5 minutes. So